Welcome back, my fellow metalheads. Today, I want to do a review of a band by the name of Dagoba with their new album, By Night, which will be coming out on February 18th. It's the band's 8th album, and it's a band that's coming out of France. Now, I've become a recent fan of this band based on the recommendations from you guys, and I checked out some of the singles from the new album. And then as I started kind of diving deeper into it and actually scheduling an interview that we've been having some logistical problems actually getting together to chat, but I decided to, you know what, I need to dive into the discography of this band and see what they're all about. And it's when I dove into the older albums, especially the past 4 albums, and really enjoyed the style of this band and what it has to present. And for those who are not aware, it's a groove metal band with some death metal sensibilities, and it has like a mix of electronic keyboard, whether it be synthesized and more piano style, and it has both clean and harsh vocals in it throughout all the albums throughout their career. I really resonated with the albums Black Nova and Poseidon. I thought they were really good albums, and it got me really excited to actually talk to Shouter about the band and kind of the philosophy of the band. And then recently, I just got the album a little bit early to review it by night, and I went through the whole album to kind of listen to it. And I gotta say, it's gonna be a divisive album overall, not because it's bad. It's actually a really well-written album. It has a lot of variety throughout the album. It has both faster and slower songs. There's a lot more keyboards and a lot more clean singing in this album in comparison to their old albums. And overall, as a product itself, it's actually pretty good. But when I say divisive, is the style that Shouter decided to kind of go with this band in this particular album, I think is going to be divisive. If you take their older albums, there's a harder edge to the band. And you can see this progression from Black Nova to here, where there is more melody. There's more clean singing. And this is especially apparent with songs like The Hunt, even more so with the song On the Run. We had the female vocalist kind of come in and really give it that more accessible feel. And that's something I can say about the album overall. It has this accessibility to it that perhaps maybe other albums didn't have. And maybe it's going to open up the band to a wider audience, more people are going to check it out, but it's also going to divide, I believe, some fans. I'm sure there's some fan base, you guys don't care what the band produces, you just overall enjoy them as a whole, and you're okay with the changes of the band. There's going to be people who are going to turn this on and going to be like, whoa, this overall album is softer. It's not as fast, it's not as aggressive. It is varied, as I mentioned, but for the exception of The Last Crossing, maybe 1 or 2 more songs, it's actually pretty tame in its death metal sensibilities. And again, some people might really appreciate that approach. I'm going to be honest here, I didn't. But I'm also able to, there's certain albums when you listen to them and you go, I don't like this. I don't like the direction they went with this. This album just sucks to me. And the example would be Saint Anger Metallica. It's a very easy one to go to because I believe objectively the music is just not good on that album. I can actually argue for Load and Reload for Metallica that there's good songs and good music. It might not be what Metallica is all about, but it still has good music. And the comparison I can give this album to is if anybody is a fan of Megadeth or somebody like Creator. When Creator released Endorama and Outcast, that was a big uproar in Creator fandom because they were extremely experimental and softer in their approach to music that a lot of people just got turned off on Creator. And there's a lot of people that actually don't like the albums past those. And for me, that became the era of Creator I like the most. And with Megadeth, the other example I could use from Megadeth is Cryptic Writings. Arguably, Cryptic Writings is actually quite a good album. Is it Megadeth? Not so much. And I believe these kinds of conversations are going to be happening around By Night from different fans of the band. And it's going to be a fair argument from both sides of the point, but it doesn't take away from, like I said, how well the album is produced. And as a matter of fact, I have to give Shouter a kind of a thumbs up, or like, man, you got some balls to go in this direction with this band. and really take the risk. It's one of the things I really want to ask him, actually, because I'm sure it's extremely nerve-wracking to change the style of the band to something else or something different that my fans actually might have a pushback on. And I personally believe it's the artist's integrity to create whatever music they'd like to create, and it's up to us fans to decide whether we are on board or not. And I have to say, with this album, I am not on board, but I fully respect the angle they're coming from, because I don't think it's particularly commercial. When people say commercial, I mean the negative connotations of it, that they're kind of selling out or that it's not genuine anymore. It does not have that feel. It feels very genuine. As a matter of fact, the piano and synthesized moments, that having that cyberpunk feel to it that they have in the music videos, really shines through, and it's actually a highlight of the album. And Shotter's clean vocals, he has some really nice clean vocals, and he's able to pull off what he kind of set out to do with this album with the fellow band members. But I'm just not on board with that style. I really like their harder edge. They kind of lost some of the groove on this album as well, in favor of this melody. And that's the kind of thing I really latched onto, especially with Legacy of Aries from the last album, Black Nova. Man, I really like how groovy and heavy that music is. I really like his harsher vocals. So it's going to be extremely divisive, I believe so. It's going to bring a lot more fans. I've mentioned this before. It's going to bring a lot more fans to this band, 100%. Perhaps may open it up a little bit more in the United States, as they've been more popular in Europe as they have been here over in the States. So that encompass, I mean, I don't think there's any really bad song. There's a couple of, not filler, but like setup, just like instrumental songs that kind of set up, like the intro song. And I believe there's one more in there as well. I think Nightclub, was it? Or Stellar. But I think the album, it doesn't overstay its welcome. It's not too short. It's just the right length. Your attention, my attention was on it the whole time. Is just, this happened to me once before in one of my reviews when I reviewed Cryptos, where I understood where they're going with the album, and I can respect it, but I wanted something different. And it's fair to say, everybody's going to have different opinions, different wants, different things. It's just, as fans, I thought I'd point out to you kind of what to expect from this album. If you expect what they've been doing the past 2 or 3 albums, I don't think you're going to hear that from this band. As a matter of fact, I think there's been a very subtle transition from their beginning albums as they kind of been going. And I have to say, I have become a fan. I do enjoy this band. This doesn't in any way, for me, example, doesn't diminish the band in any kind of way. It's more of an experiment of what they wanted to go. Who knows, maybe in our next album, they're going to be 5 times heavier than they've ever been. I think it's important for an artist to experiment and try things. And this is an experiment in trying something different. And maybe perhaps some creative juices that were flowing were really let out on this particular album. What I do want to point out to all you guys here is, if there's any particular questions you would want me to ask Shotter yourself, maybe you have certain questions about the band or the album, I'm more than happy to answer those questions as well if I get a chance to see some of your comments. But it's going to be interesting to kind of pick his brain and see where his head was when he created this album. And I'm not going to give it, I stopped giving ratings to albums because it's so subjective on what it is. It's just, you already kind of know from what I've explained, it's very modern. It's a very modern band with a lot of modern sensibilities because they're pulling so many different things into it. Lena Scissorhands from Infected Rain said the best. She said, there is no more one genre bands, really. Everybody pulls from multiple genres to create some kind of a hybrid. And Dagoba very much is a hybrid. It's a hybrid band, and it becomes more apparent in this album because they've embraced different sides of this particular band. It's elements that's always been there, but now one outweighs the other. And with that, I'm going to leave you guys, and do check out the album. I highly recommend it for those who are fans of Dagoba, especially if you like something more along the lines of like Battle Beast or perhaps Epica, something that has a more gentle, or at least more symphonic and melodic approach. I shouldn't say gentle, more symphonic and melodic approach. I think this is going to be right up your alley. If you absolutely prefer something that's heavy and harsh, perhaps this might not be the album for you. That's where I'm going to leave it, because I don't think like I said, I don't think it's bad. It's just gonna divide a fan base. And usually something that evokes emotion always does that. If just everybody's on board with it and everybody likes everything there is, perhaps then it has become commercial. And that's just my 2 cents on the opinion of this album. And I thought, how do I properly approach this review? Because I don't like shitting on bands, right? But I also didn't like the album. And this happened to me actually a couple of times with a couple of albums that I checked out that I'll be releasing reviews for. And I think it's important to be respectful of musicians and all the hard effort they put in. I mean, it took 5 years for this album to come out, right? So there's a lot of effort that's been put in, but it's also important to be honest in your review. With that being said, guys, make sure to enjoy the rest of your day. Stay safe out there and keep it metal.